Today, MillyMollyMandy's mother goes away. Once upon a time, MillyMollyMandy's mother went away from the nice white cottage with the thatched roof for a whole fortnight's holiday. MillyMollyMandy's mother hardly ever went away for holidays. In fact, MillyMollyMandy could only remember her going away once before, a long time ago, and that was only for 2 days. Mrs. Hooker, mother's friend in the next town, invited her. Mrs. Hooker wanted to have a holiday by the sea, and she didn't want to go alone, as it isn't so much fun, so she wrote and asked Mother to come with her. When Mother read the letter first, she said it was very kind of Mrs. Hooker, but she couldn't possibly go, as she didn't see however Father and Grandpa and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie and MillyMollyMandy would get on without her to cook dinners for them and wash clothes for them and see after things. But Auntie said she could manage to do the cooking and the washing somehow, and Grandma said she could do Auntie's sweeping and dusting, and MillyMollyMandy said she would help all she knew how, and Father and Grandpa and Uncle said they wouldn't be fussy or make any more work than they could help. And then they all begged Mother to write to Mrs. Hooker and accept. So Mother did, and she was quite excited, and so was MillyMollyMandy for her. Then Mother bought a new hat and a blouse and a sunshade, and she packed them in her trunk with all her best things, MillyMollyMandy helping. And then she kissed Grandpa and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie goodbye and hugged MillyMollyMandy, and then Father drove her in the pony trap to the next town to the station to meet Mrs. Hooker and go with her by train to the sea. She kissed Father goodbye at the station. And so Father and Grandpa and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie and MillyMollyMandy had to manage as best they could in the nice white cottage with the thatched roof for a whole fortnight without Mother. It did feel queer. MillyMollyMandy kept forgetting, and she would run in from school to tell Mother all about something and find it was Auntie in Mother's apron bending over the kitchen stove instead of Mother herself. And Father would put his head in at the kitchen door and say, "Polly, will you?" and then suddenly remember that Polly was having a lovely holiday by the sea. Polly was Mother's other name, of course. And they felt so pleased when they remembered, but it did seem a long time to wait until she came back. And then one day Father said, "I've got a plan. Don't you think it would be a good idea while Polly's away if we were to..." And then Father told them all his plan, and Grandpa and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie thought it was a very fine plan, and so did MillyMollyMandy. But I mustn't tell you what it was, because it was to be a surprise, and you know how secrets do get about once you start telling them. But I'll just tell you this, that they made the kitchen and the scullery and the passage outside the kitchen most dreadfully untidy, so that nothing was in its proper place, and they had to have meals like picnics, only not so nice, though MillyMollyMandy thought it was quite fun. Well, they all worked awfully hard at the plan in all their spare time, and nobody really minded having things all upset because it was such fun to think how surprised Mother would be when she came back. Then another day Grandpa said, "There's something I've been meaning to do for some time to please Polly. I guess it would be a good plan to set about it now. And then Grandpa told them all his plan. And Father and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie thought it was a very fine plan, and so did MillyMollyMandy. But I mustn't tell you what it was, though I will just tell you this, that Grandpa was very busy digging things up in the garden and planting them again, and bringing things home in a box at the back of the pony trap on market day. And MillyMollyMandy helped him all she could. Well, then Uncle had a plan, and Father and Grandpa and Grandma and Auntie thought it was a very fine plan, and so did MillyMollyMandy. It's a secret, remember. But I'll just tell you this, that Uncle had a lot of bits of wood and nails and a hammer, and he was very busy in the evenings after he'd shut up his chickens for the night, which he called putting them to bed. Then Grandma and Auntie had a plan, and Father and Grandpa and Uncle thought it was a very fine plan, and so did MillyMollyMandy. But I can only tell you this, that Grandma and Auntie and MillyMollyMandy, who helped too, made themselves very untidy and dusty indeed, and nobody had any cakes for tea at all that week, what with Auntie being so busy and the kitchen so upset. But nobody really minded, because it was such fun to think how pleased Mother would be when she came back. And then the day arrived when Mother was to return home. They'd all been working so hard in the nice white cottage with the thatch roof that the 2 weeks had simply flown, but they'd just managed to get things straight again, and Auntie had baked a cake for tea, and Milly Molly Mandy had put flowers in all the vases. When Father helped Mother down from the pony trap, it almost didn't seem as if it could be Mother at first, but of course it was, only she had on her new hat, and she was so brown with sitting on the beach, and so very pleased to be home again. She kissed them all round and just hugged Milly Molly Mandy. And then they led her indoors. And directly Mother got inside the doorway, she saw a beautiful new passage, all clean and painted, and she was surprised. Then she went upstairs and took off her things and came back down into the kitchen, and directly Mother got inside the door, she saw a beautiful new kitchen, all clean and sunny, with the ceiling whitewashed and the walls freshly painted, and she was surprised. When they had had tea, Auntie's cake was very good, though not quite like Mother's. She helped to carry the cups and plates out into the scullery, and directly Mother got through the doorway, she saw a beautiful new scullery, all clean and whitewashed, and she was surprised. She put the cups down on the draining board, and directly she looked out of the window, she saw a beautiful new flower garden just outside, and a rustic trellis work hiding the dustbin. And she was surprised. Then Mother went upstairs to unpack, and when her trunk was cleared, Grandpa carried it up to the attic, and Mother went first to open the door, and directly she opened it, Mother saw a beautifully tidy, spring-cleaned attic. And then Mother couldn't say anything, but they were all very dear, naughty people to have worked so hard while she was being lazy. And Father and Grandpa and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie and Milly Molly Mandy were all very pleased and said they liked being naughty. Then Mother brought out the presents she'd got for them. And what do you think Milly Molly Mandy's present was, besides some shells which Mother had picked up on the beach? It was a beautiful little blue dressing gown which Mother had sewed and sewed for her while she sat on the beach under her new sunshade with Mrs. Hooker, listening to the waves splashing. Then Father and Grandpa and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie and Milly Molly Mandy all said that Mother was very naughty to have worked when she might have been having a nice lazy time. But Mother said she liked being naughty too, and Milly Molly Mandy was so pleased with her new blue dressing gown she couldn't help wearing it straight away. And then Mother put on her apron and insisted on setting to work to make them something nice for supper, so she should feel she was really at home. For it had been a perfect holiday, said Mother, but it was really like having another one to come home again to them all at the nice white cottage with the thatched roof. And next time, Milly Molly Mandy goes to the sea. That's for tomorrow.